her question here is from Janice. Is there a difference between self-publishing and independent publishing? Because we're talking about these 4 different variations. And if somebody publishes with an independent publisher, are they considered self-published or an indie author? That's a very
Yeah.
good twist.
This is, I think, the etymology of these words, and I'm going to give you a little bit of history here. I think that I may personally have contributed to some of the confusion around this, so I'm going to try and
Well,
clarify it.
good job.
So, prior to self-publishing being an option, really in the early 2000s, there were traditional publishers, and then they called independent publishers. And traditional publishers were referred to as, the big ones: Simon and Schuster, HarperCollins, Hachette, all of those. And independent publishers were imprints that maybe were more genre specific. They were focused on specific genres, and they weren't necessarily based in New York. They could be based anywhere. And so there's an organization called the Independent Book Publishers Association.
Right.
And then back in around 2007 or 8, I actually wrote a white paper called The Next Indie Revolution, INDIE. And in that case, my opening line was first film, then music, now publishing. And what I was trying to do is I was trying to position and get people to see self-publishing is not the bastard stepchild of traditional publishing and what people did if they couldn't get picked up. But it was a phenomenon that had already happened in content creators who were filmmakers and were musicians. And it was just now happening. That title started to get being used. In fact, I was invited, this was years ago, Publishers Weekly had a panel in New York, and I'll never forget this. It was on self-publishing. This was probably like 08, 09, somewhere around there when it was just starting out. And I was on the panel with just a tremendously accomplished, respected traditional publisher. And it was a standing room only crowd. There was probably 150 people crammed in this room because everyone wanted to know what this new phenomenon was. And so they gave each of us opening statements. And if I told you this guy's name, you'd know him. Just great respect for him. And I'm like, why am I on this panel with this guy? But I realized that no one else could talk to, but I had talked about indie publishing. So it came to my opening remarks. I asked everyone, I said, how many people in this audience have a book to publish? And everyone raised their hand. And I looked at this guy and I said, Bob, how many books are you going to publish this year? He said, probably 10, but maybe 12. I looked back at the audience and I said, if he will offer you a contract, you absolutely should publish with him. He knows exactly what he's doing. If he picks your book, it's going to be a big winner. So you 12 right there, I want you to put your hands down. You're going to work with Bob. Now, the rest of you that have your hands up, what are you going to do? And so you have to make the decision. Are you going to wait for Bob or someone else, or are you going to put your book into the marketplace? And that's how I positioned indie. So independent publishing can be used in 2 different ways in the current environment. Sometimes it speaks to how authors choose to independent publish, but it also can be referred to as an independent publisher, which is why it's confusing. So if you're an indie author, I don't have that as my white paper with you, but I show you the article I wrote. It was first film, then music, now publishing, the next indie revolution. So indie author refers to someone who chooses not to use a traditional publishing path, but independent publisher can also refer to an independent publisher who's not part of the big 4 or big 5, which is Penguin, Random House, Simon and Schuster. So that's why that's a great question, but it's also very confusing because it gets used simultaneously. So,
right. Okay. I hope this answered your question, Janice.